And now everybody can see us. Hey, everybody. Welcome to RPG Help Desk. Thank you so much for coming. Uh, I'm here today with Roderick from Ablewood Games. I realize, it's cutting off part of the G on the name. I don't know why the font's doing that, but oh well. Uh, it's mostly there. So we are going to talk about how to write your gigabrain plan, how your villain has like a big plan, how to execute that, how to actually get it down, how to execute it. Um, if big world events, how do you get those down? How do you? I know we have a couple of questions that came in through the Discord channel. Thank you for that. Uh, that like a few things pertain to that, and like how do you not railroad and things like that. So we're going to talk about it. So if you have any questions, feel free to throw them in chat at any point, now included. But before we start, Roderick, say hi and let people know who you are and what you do.
Hi, everyone. My name is Roderick. I'm the owner of a small tabletop publishing company called Alewood Games. Um, Most of the things that we publish at Alewood is written and designed by me with a tiny team that alternates people depending on the project. Um, some of the stuff that I've done that you've probably heard of is Archiver, which is a supplement for Mothership, or Remember Frankie, which is like a storytelling, lyric writing game inspired by Tom Waits, and just weird things like that. So
Ooh,
I'm around.
that's cool. Yeah, I think I saw your stuff at PAX Unplugged while I was there, and you had Mothership things, and I had just started playing Mothership, and I was like, "Oh, Mothership things! Let me look at this," which is a really awesome game. Like, it's a really good system.
Yeah, Mothership is super fun. Uh, I think that's the system I play the most these days, just because um, it's so easy to jump into and jump out of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you may, Darren may or may not have another a chance to play Mothership at PAX East next week. You should. If you have the chance, you absolutely should. If there's an opening, play it. It is a fun game. Also, really good for cons because uh, you can learn the rules very quickly. Like, you do
Yeah,
not have to.
and it's designed so that you die very easily, which is perfect for convention one shots.
Yes, it
Like
is.
if you're gonna go out with a bang, and Mothership is the perfect way to do it.
It really is. I enjoy it a lot. All right. So, topic today of how to write down your plan. And this was the thing we talked a little bit back and forth on. Was like, well, what do you want the topic to be? And you had mentioned like, oh, getting your plan written down, which I feel like is extremely important because I am a big believer in like you need part of your plan written down so you know what to do. And then you need part of your plan to be open to interpretation, so when players do a thing you're not expecting, or something happens or whatever, that you could be like, oh, okay, pivot a little bit this way. Oh, that I can say this, which now feeds back into the part I wrote. Um,
Hmm.
or to be like, ooh, because I know all this stuff that I wrote down, it is now easier to improv it because of something unexpected that happens. So I'm a huge believer in you need both. So when you said writing stuff down, I was like, absolutely, I want to talk about that. So what are your thoughts on just your overall thoughts on like getting a big plan down, be that world events or the big evil villain scheme or what have you?
Yeah. I take inspiration from another uh, RPG system. So if you're familiar with Microscope, um,
Heard of, have not played.
it's a fractal history telling RPG where it's formatted in a way where you say, like, here's a main timeline of things that may or may not happen. And within that timeline, there are events of like huge things that happen, like civilizations erupting and ending and things like that. And within those, you can go down even more specifically, zoom in, and do like different events that led up to that. And you can zoom in more and look at specific characters. So it's like this fractal way of like looking at an entire timeline, where at any point you can zoom in and zoom out And it's very easily, because I'm a very visual person, it's very easy to see the connection between the entire story. And I played a couple of sessions of those, and it was just so eye-opening in terms of like understanding the scope of a giant storyline without having to remember everything. It's just like subdividing, using like note cards or on a paper. And I started incorporating that when I would set up my sessions. Um, I would have basically like, here's like my big bad evil guy, and like I'll have a general idea of like things I want to explore, right? And I'll have like that be the giant overall idea. And then within then, I'll start dissecting like these are really big moments that happen, like eras. And
Mm-hmm.
then I'm dissecting again, like these are different events within that era. And I'll zoom in again, like these are different specific characters that were important for this type of event.
Wow.
And you can just kind of like piece things together that way. And when you do your sessions, when you start a session, you kind of pick where in the timeline you want to start and zoom all the way in and figure out, okay, for this session, we're going to do this particular moment. And because I took the time to connect everything in this giant self-contained fractal world, uh, it makes it easy to run the sessions, because if your characters end up going like pivoting somewhere where you didn't plan,
Mm-hmm.
everything that you wrote in there is somewhat connected to each other, whether you were doing it intentionally or not, just because of the format of how you were dissecting, like zooming in more and more and more, so that everything is inadvertently like related to each other without you trying. If that makes sense.
That's really cool. That's a really good way to do that. Shoot. I also need to steal that for my plans.
Because I used to do the thing where I just wrote it out linearly, like a movie.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as your players decide to do something else, like everything's out the window, and you need to come up with a more sandbox way of
Right.
like getting your ideas down.
Yeah, that makes a total sense. Because, yeah, it's you can account for everything but the players, and like I feel
Mhm.
like, and that's not a bane. Like I think that's part of what makes RPGs so delightful, is that unpredictability in group storytelling. That,
Yeah.
you know, we are better as a community than we are on our own. We will think of things when we put our heads together that we could not do solo. It's a really good way to do that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
absolutely need to
because
steal it.
in the end, right, you're like you said earlier, you're only writing down half the story, because the other half is going to be done at the table
Mm-hmm.
with the players, and you have no idea where that's going to end up. And I notice this with any kind of writing or world building, whether you're making a film or a book, is if you have that overall big picture or through line, which is either like a theme or a person, um, when you're subdividing within that bracket, within you'll always have that theme in mind as you're zooming in more and more, which is why everything can connect whether or not you mean for it or not. So if your players decide to go somewhere else, you can still bring in something else from your that you wrote in your fractal timeline. You can just bring it in super easily, because it's all somehow related, because that overall arching theme.
Yeah,
So
that's a very similar thing that I think is very important in DMing, which is modular DMing, which is you
mm,
have, yeah, those things of like, oh, here are some aspects of, things that I thought of, or like, oh, this happened in this era or this, and then someone does something out of that you weren't expecting. Go, oh, okay, nope, this is actually right here, because now you're interacting with this, and this would be really helpful. So here you go.
I got to say that's like one of my favorite parts about DMing, is that um, when you start treading into unknown territory, and even I, as the game runner, have no idea where it's going to go.
Hmm.
And then as people like mid action are like coming up with actions and ideas, um, I'm formulating like new pivots in my head of where the story can go, and just like riffing. And it's just such an exciting feeling. It feels very like that makes gaming feel so alive, you know?
Absolutely.
Like how I imagine people on stage doing improv or jazz feel, right? You feel like you're constantly on the like the edge of a cliff, but like you're taking that leap of faith, hoping that everyone else is going to catch you, you know?
Hmm. It's really good. Italian starting off with a really strong question. Uh, that I don't think there's a right answer to, but I feel like there's multiple answers to. And so I am curious about yours. And of course, want to share mine. Italian asks, do you start with a villain or the story arc? I.e., write a character and then figure out what they're to do, or write what you want to happen and then build a villain that fits the role you're looking for?
Mm,
I know I can answer
I
that
think.
first, or if you're ready, if you're set and ready, you
No,
can.
you go first.
Okay. Uh, I think it 100% depends, and I don't think that's a problem at all. I've done it both ways, and I've done it other ways. Like there's the one of the campaigns I'm running right now. I don't think anybody is watching who's in that, so I'm safe to say it. Like the main villain, it starts with them in a time loop, and they are like, "Why am I stuck in a time loop?" And they are stuck in a time loop of a wizard who has a thing that's looping the day so he can eventually learn how to rob a bank without getting caught. And so just every day it resets and he's
Mm,
just learning it, but they got stuck in it. I had no idea what I wanted that villain to be, but I knew I wanted that to be session one of you're in a time loop. What do you do? And be like, it ended up being about 4 or 5 sessions before they got out of the time loop. Um,
mm,
and being a good way to like get everybody stuck in a scenario and like they have to work together and all that. And then from there, I had to build out, all right, they're in a time loop. Why? Okay, wizard wants to rob a bank and is doing it so he can get it perfect. Okay, why is he robbing a bank? Needs funds for this. Okay, how's he got this? Oh, okay. Going back and further and going kind of more and more into the master plan of like, oh, okay,
mm.
this is the version they're going to meet is a younger version of this wizard, and the older version is pulling previous younger versions of himself to different points in time to pull off schemes. And they're keep getting with a MacGuffin that they don't know that they have currently, keep getting stuck in his plans. And
Yeah. Oh, that's
so,
great.
yeah, so then it's like, okay, well, now why is he doing this? What does he want? Blah, blah, blah. But like that idea of like, oh, yeah, that's where it start. And I've done it the other way where it's like, oh, I have, you know, I just have a fun, really silly villain. I just want someone that's like bombastic and twirls their mustache. It's like, what do they want to do? All right, well, I don't know why do you need so much mustache wax? Like, what is it that's fun about this character that makes me want them to be a villain, and then build a plan off of that? So whatever
Yeah,
I say.
I
Oh, go
totally
ahead.
agree with you. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I was gonna say whatever you're most passionate about, let that be your guiding star, and then build everything off of that. Is my thought.
Exactly. 100%, man. You need follow what you're excited to write about. Because in the end, you're going to be the one putting all the work in. And so
Yes.
pick whatever you find the most inspiration is most fun for you and gives you the most ideas. I do the same thing. So I agree. I depends how you feel and what you want to do. So like there are times when I've created campaigns or sessions specifically based off uh, uh, the overall like vibe that I want to do. For example, if I want to do like an ultraviolet grasslands kind of thing where the games are just slice of life road trip but in a weird sci-fi setting, right? There's no villains involved. I'm trying to come up with all these little tiny mini adventures
Mm,
for our players to kind of experience the world.
yeah.
So I'm more focused on like what happens to them on an average day, like those kind of adventures. Whereas if I'm doing like a mothership session, it's for me it's more fun to think about like the villain because mothership has a lot of like uh, technical problem solving and less conversation. And so if you have a lot of gear and a lot of tech, it's fun to come up with a really cool monster
Mm-hmm.
that allows your players to really exploit the things that they have at their fingertips to like solve that puzzle.
Yeah.
You know, like if I have a monster, like how do you fight a monster that you can't see and you have this kind of gear? And you're in this kind of ship with this kind of tools. Like how can I form that villain to be a fun puzzle adventure, but like that's more visceral that can eat you, you know?
Yes. And I don't know, Mothership being a great example of that. You can also do the villain built on a mechanic or a thing you want that doesn't necessarily have to have a plan. Similar
Hmm.
to you don't need a villain, kind of you just need obstacles, like in a road trip thing, and like goals that you're trying to achieve. Um, Having a villain that is, a four-dimensional creature and you are only interacting with certain parts of it and you cannot understand it. You don't know what it is. You don't know its motivations. You don't know if it's wholly aware of you. Same thing for something like an eldritch horror, where you have something that's just so far beyond what you understand. You're just interacting with it in a very specific way. And Mothership, yeah, being a great example of, oh well, I've got tech of, okay, how do we solve this? How do we're seeing one piece of a puzzle, and like, ooh, but we'd have to figure out like all this other stuff around it.
And
Sometimes
if
you're
you're not
dealing with.
sure which one to,
Go ahead.
oh, and so if you're not, if I'm not sure exactly how I want to approach it, sometimes I just ask my players like what they want.
It's a
It's like, what kind
great.
of thing do you want to do? Like, what kind of theme do you want? Like, do you want to fight a lot? Do you want to talk to people? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I just go off of their opinions and right then and there, that's my jumping off point.
Absolutely. I wholly stand by doing like the red, yellow, green, which you talked about for session 0, and green being, well, what do you want to do? What do you want to experience with your character? What do you want to have happen? What are some, just events? And I've mentioned this before. It's like, oh, someone was like, well, I want like a beach episode, like just a nice, like silly, we all go out, have a fun time. It doesn't have to be a big impact. It's a bit of a filler, but it's really fun. Like, all right, cool. Like, and knowing those things, and like someone else is like family trauma, and someone else is like, I want to crash a wedding, and someone else is like small amount of eco-terrorism. Like, all right, cool, start putting these together. Can I build scenarios off of this? Can I tie this into a villain plan? Can it be,
Mhm.
you know some sort of thing that works with, or can I use them as a connective tissue between two things that I have planned, and then go, oh, okay, perfect. I did that for one game where it's like, oh, okay, I know they want to explore this like living cave to find out information on the big monster that it's inside of. Be like, cool. I can weave that into something else and have it be the thing that leads them to the next spot of what I had planned.
Mhm. I know, if you dive into the, RPG zine community and all the things that are offered there, um, the books that people are making in that sphere is so wide and unique and amazing. And a lot of RPG zines end up just being randomizer tools for GMs just to spark
Mm-hmm.
inspiration. Like, if you're into sci-fi, if you look up anything from Adam Station, who made Infinity of Ships, and he just makes books that are just D100 tables of just randomized names and descriptions of ships and weapons and things like that. Um, and you can easily come up with just like neat little entourage or themes there. And then Severed Books has a whole book of just random monsters and abilities and magic items. So if you can't come up with one complete yourself, there's tons of resources out there to just Mad Lib something together.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. The RPG zine scene is phenomenal. Like, there is so much stuff. Speakeasy mentioning itch.io. Yeah,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
great resource for like
It's just
indie
amazing.
tabletop. Yeah. And like, especially because it's a cool, it's a small website. Like, well, it's a huge website, but like it's not as well known as like, like Drive Through or something. But like they have a ton of really good stuff on there, and also it is very friendly to creatives. Like, uh,
It's also, a lot of the stuff is free
yeah,
because people just make things willy nilly, and they'll have jams, game jams
yes,
all the time where there's just so much stuff that you know it's all there.
yeah. There's almost too much. It's like there's
Yeah.
so much stuff. But yeah, definitely like finding a creator you have heard of or like, and then just checking to see if they have an itch page. And yeah, a lot of times they have a bunch of free stuff too. And itch loves to do bundles. So a lot of times you can find a bunch of their stuff bundled together, or a big bundle. Like there's the uh, several. There's been multiple like trans rights bundles, and I've bought several of them, and I have like 1,000 freaking games from those, and mine are in there too. Where it's like, oh yeah, just you want people to have access to this. It's
Yeah,
itch is amazing.
I put games in bundles all the time, especially from Just the Human. If you ever follow them, they always
Mm-hmm.
do
I do.
charity bundles for, accessibility and for human rights, and you pay $10 to get like 300 games or something. It's like it's insane the amount you get.
Mm-hmm. It is. Uh, Shinobi McGuire asking, would you consider two stories forking and coming back together? Absolutely. That is a great way to make a plan seem more complicated than you originally planned. Is players go off this way and you go, oh, and then this whole thing that you totally naturally discovered actually connects back here. Yeah, forking plans coming back together is a secret DM tip. Spoilers, sorry. Or at least it is for me. I don't know if you also do stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm always trying to tie things back together if I can, just to like create the illusion that it was there the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it's so helpful. And it's cool. It's a as a player on the player side, like you feel rewarded that you did the thing and that you
Yeah.
discovered.
Oh
Um
man, callbacks are
oh
feel so
yeah.
good mid
Yeah, yeah.
game.
It's like if you're watching a mystery, like and you guess the mystery, you guess who the
Mhm.
murderer is, like 30 seconds before the show reveals it. You're like, "Oh, I'm so smart. Oh, I figured it out." And it's like the show gave you that. Like it probably gave you all probably gave you all the information throughout, and then probably right before the reveal to make you feel clever, they give you one big clue that you're going to subconsciously pick up on and be like, "Oh, I get it." Or you won't pick up on it and you'll just be surprised like I normally am because I'm really bad at those.
Or you can do what, BBC Mysteries used to do all the time, where they would reveal um, clues that they never actually showed you earlier on. They would show you the same scene and then pan
Oh.
down
Uh-huh.
and be like, "Oh, he was actually wearing the shoes." But you, as the viewer, would never have known that because they never showed it.
Yeah. That bothered there's some I forget what it is. It was some like Sherlock Holmes movie or something and they absolutely did that. And it was like a big cool reveal and it was like, "Oh, but this," and it was like, You straight up obfuscated that information." And I'm upset now. But yeah, I love it when it's not like there's a comic I really like called Rat Queens, and there is one part. It's not a mystery comic; it's fantasy adventure comedy. Um,
Yeah.
but there is one scene where they're like, one of the people is talking about like, oh, this is happening because the guy I think is recently divorced because there was a tan line on his finger, and there's a scrape in the wall behind the painting, so I think that's where the stash is, and like blah 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 this and that, and it's like and I went back like 2 pages to see the establishing shot for that, and all of those details were in it. And it's like that's that's good.
That's really good.
Uh, and then I don't know if you have more on that, or we can go to the next question, or I guess either of those because those were
Uh,
two questions.
we can go to the next one, unless I'm forgetting what if there was a two-parter. I don't know.
Oh, it was the villain or oh villain or oh, now I've undone my notes. Oh no. The start with the villain or the story and then the forking plot points to come back together.
Oh, the forking. Yeah, I'm good with that. We answered that. Of
Sweet.
like faking it or like yeah, having all the details there. I mean that also um
Mhm.
no, I got nothing
No.
else to add. I thought I had an idea and it just fizzled away. Don't mind me.
Okay. Well, we have more questions, so it's cool. Italian with another one says, here's another one. When creating a villain, what are the fundamental pieces you should have to figure out in order to make them feel like a full character? Uh,
Mm,
Great question. I do think motivation is massive. Like, why, if they really need mustache wax, why do they need mustache wax? Like, what about the mustache wax matters? Um, a I think it needs a sense of motivation why they're doing what they're doing, a sense of understanding why they're doing, not just I need mustache wax because I love it, but like need information that the characters can, or the players and characters can find out and be like, "Oh, I get it." Like I understand. They don't have to agree, but they understand. There is one like I really like villains that have a same goal as the players. Like, no, 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 we have to unite everybody together. And they're like, yeah. And it's like, and we'll do that through culling people that don't agree with us. And it's like, no, like they have the same goal, but their methods are different. Um, so giving them that understandable goal allows you to be like, oh, okay, we know what you want. I understand you. You want to bring people together. You just do it in a horrible way, and I don't agree with this. Um, so I think those are things that can really help make a villain and ultimately their plan and why they, what they're doing and why they're doing it come together and feel like an actual character is doing it and they are not just an obstacle. What are
yeah,
your
I
thoughts?
feel like playing with empathy is a huge part in making a villain.
Yes.
Um, Empathy of like the players themselves and the characters that they've developed, like understanding like um, how their characters align and what their motives are. If you can come up with a villain that can kind of like either be the antithesis or run semi-parallel with them,
Mm-hmm.
is super fun because it gives people something to latch onto emotionally, and I feel like that's a big part of gaming. It's not just solving like not let me correct, not just a big part of gaming, a big part of specifically RPG gaming. Like emotion's a big part of it, I feel. You're not just solving puzzles and trying to like find the key and do this. I mean, you can, and that's totally cool. But my favorite games are the ones that uh, tread like a moral gray
Mm-hmm.
or like pull at your heartstrings. And the way to do that is coming up with not even just like villains too, because like I said, of that kind of fractal universe building. Um, let's say your big bad evil guy is like the overarching thing in your entire story, and you're trying to figure out all the segments in between. A good way to develop that villain is to figure out how that villain has disrupted your world in a way that creates split factions about
Mm.
that, of like what they think about that villain. So you not just have the villain that you can empathize or understand what their motives are, but then you have all these people who are in support and not support of their endeavors that your characters will run into, making your bad guy feel even bigger because they're not just a big guy doing bad things, they're influencing the world around you in different ways, which makes them feel like all encompassing, all around, and like omnipotent in a way. But like when you hear about the villain constantly through these NPCs and see how NPCs act because of their ideology, it makes them feel so huge off in the distance,
Mm-hmm.
and like that's what we're up against, like that's kind of how you want to build it from afar, is how he or she or it affects the world immediately like below them and around the players.
Absolutely. That's a really, really good point on all of that. And especially, yeah, tie in emotions. That is huge.
I had when I first started getting into RPGs, my friend introduced me to the first ones I ever played was Dungeons and Dragons Second Edition Advanced. So it was like super crunchy, and you died really, really easily. But his GMing was great because he would always he would always create circumstances and villains that really made us have to decide morally what we want to do. Like he'd always give us make it like a double-edged sword. It's like we want to save the world, but we have to sacrifice this NPC that we made friends with a long time ago in order to
Mm,
do it because they're the key and blah blah blah. And like time, like that's how I got hooked is because like once I realized the emotion that gets involved in it, I was like, man, this is like experiencing the movie like firsthand rather than watching it passively. Like this is so fun.
yeah, I totally agree. That's a really good way to like get hooked. Is that yeah that stakes exactly what you're saying of like ooh, but I don't want to give this up. This
Yeah.
matters. It's really good.
There
Uh,
was
mhm.
one game I played. It was called Post-Human Pathways. It's like only 3 players. It's like a storytelling game where you create a character and it goes in 3 phases. The first part of the phase, like when they're young, and then when they're middle age, and then when they're old. In order to progress to the next phase, you have to you first build your character by having all their beliefs, their routines, whatever makes them like who they are, their identity. In order to progress through the game, you have to sacrifice one of those things that make your character who they are. So there's always you
Oh,
have to lose something to move forward, and that's how your character develops. And it's that kind of writing I think works really well in RPGs is that instead of trying to win all the time, embrace like the losing, embrace the bad rolls, embrace
hmm,
having to lose something to move forward. Because
yeah,
on paper, it looks like you're moving backwards, but in storytelling, you're moving forward when you lose something because then that's how your character grows and gets more understanding.
absolutely. Similar to like the what is it the like character circle or whatever it's called. I think it's the Dan Harmon method of making an episode of something
Mm.
where it's like you have to establish normality and then something is wrong and they, have to lose something or gain something, but what did it cost
Hmm.
before the end? It's really solid. Um, I feel like there's like one more thing. Oh yeah, so the making them a character. Uh, Kind of what I said earlier on the other thing is like what makes you excited about this villain? What makes you excited about their plan? What is it? Is it the emotional turmoil you're going to inflict on your players when you give them this hard choice you know is coming? Uh, is it the moral quandary that this is going to bring up? Is it you've crafted this incredibly fun character to play as in this game to just be a little shit to your players and it's really fun. Like whatever that is, lead with it. Like go with it. Let that be something that inspires you to uh, create the character around that so you can have fun with it. Because you're one of the players at the table. You should be having fun too.
Yeah, man. RPGs, it's shared energy, right? If
Mm-hmm.
you're not enthusiastic and vibrant with the thing that you've created, how you expect your players to be as well, and then you just feed off of that energy off each other.
Italian, if that answers your question, let us know. And if it doesn't, also let us know. Um, Unless you got anything more to add to that, go to the next one.
Good.
All right. Durinethal asks, how do I get the BBEG? For those who might not know, big bad evil guy, gal, genius, gentrification, or whatever you want it to stand for. How do I get the BBEG to acknowledge the PCs as a threat without immediately wiping them out? Uh, if there's a power imbalance at that point in the story. Ooh, okay. So how do I get the BBG to acknowledge that the PCs as a threat without? Okay. So there's both ways. How do you get the? Both of them have to be a threat to each other without the other one easily being able to wipe them out. That's a great question. ultimately lots of ways, but let's discuss some. I think a. Oh,
Um,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. After you.
Uh, just writing down my notes. Two ways that I've done before when I have a really strong villain that the character's going to meet earlier on. Um, and positive there's way more ways to do it, but these are the two that I typically do. Um, is one they meet the villain early on. There's no way they can beat him, and you think everything is over. But then the PCs have help from the world around them.
Mm.
For some circumstance, maybe like the village is standing up for them. Maybe they're in a particular circumstance that the players can't protect themselves from the villain, but the fortification can, or some sort of. They just happen to be in a place, in a social setting, or a location that can protect them temporarily, where the villain has to like say what they need to, do what they need to, and then leave. Come back when they can find the PCs at a weaker point. That's one way I can do it. The other one is that if you can write a villain that needs something from their characters, your PCs, they
Ooh.
won't kill them right away because they need them alive, and you may not even have to tell your PCs why.
Mm-hmm.
They might be questioning why, but maybe hint at it, like maybe like they notice a glint in their eye or some sort of like they're about to do something and they visibly refrain. It allows the PCs to like then discuss it, be like, why did that happen? He
Mm-hmm.
total totally could have cleared us, but they didn't, and so um, and it also like yeah, it also sparks up conversation afterwards too, without having to kill your whole party.
Totally. I feel like that's a really good example. Jack in our game Adventures and I, there's a reoccurring NPC named Egalier who is like sometimes very helpful and like helps the party, and other times we know like she's gonna throw us under the bus, but like it always matters to which scenario is going to help her out. And when it benefits her for us to be allied here, huge boon. Like absolutely powerful person to have on your side for the moment. Um yeah, I think also on the what you're saying, the opposite of the players have protection is that the villain has protection. That like
Mm.
maybe they're, like a high ranking somebody, a politician, whatever, and like you can't just go in and be like, you're a bad person. We bashed you with swords. We win. Where they have some sort of protection of the law or of a group of people around them, uh, that either will not give them direct access or they will have retaliation that they cannot win against. Um,
Yeah.
and then that way that also leads to great scenarios of being able to have open dialogue, possibly even like like painfully true dialogue where it's like, yeah, I would like to murder you, I can't, so we're just gonna eat cheese together because we're at a party and neither of us can do anything. But it's like, but I want you to know I do want you dead, and when I get the opportunity, I'll take it, and that can work both ways. Um, so yeah, putting them in a scenario where just instantly resolving it wouldn't solve the problem. Similar to that would be if the problem isn't necessarily a person, but like an entity or a system. Like if the king is doing bad things and you are like, oh, we'll kill the king. And it's like, cool. Well, is the prince also a big dick? Like, because then, all right, well, you've just created a power vacuum. Now that's going to be filled with something. And then, oh, okay, okay, so now you've killed two people. All right, well, who's next in line? Like this, it is a rotten family tree. So just doing that isn't going to help. Like if you have you know, a unjust system that the players are fighting against, you have to do something much deeper than just stopping one thing. You have to work around like what is the root cause of this and what can we actually do. So that's another way to do that. Uh, Also, if you wanted to establish a threat and you're worried about it being murdered, use messengers. Like you can get direct messages to the players or players to the person, uh, so they don't have to directly interact. So you don't have the chance of players being like, "Sweet, now's our chance, murder."
One thing I've tried to do this in games, but haven't successfully done it exactly the way I wanted to. Um, but I sometimes try to create a campaign where there's the main villain that everybody knows, but then there's like a secondary, like you were saying earlier, like a much larger thing, like this the system, something that's not like a single person.
Mm-hmm.
Usually end up making that like my secondary like hidden villain, like the thing that's like a threat to everyone, including your main bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
So that if they do have a chance to acknowledge each other, I always wanted to create a scenario where like the heroes meet the villain, but then like because of the timing, the third thing that's been slowly brewing in the background
Mm.
now comes up and they both have to sort of like temporary ally themselves to like get out of it.
Yes.
I never got to that point, but I love the idea of being able to have that third, that secondary threat that's just waiting for everyone.
Oh, it is really hard to do. Uh, but yeah, it's so satisfying when it does that. I've had the climax of one of my campaigns be that the like neither the players or the villain's plan worked, and because they were fighting, created a larger problem that they then had to deal with together, and it was
Hmm.
beautiful. So fun. So yeah, having that secondary or tertiary threat, and knowing that just as a DM is very helpful too, because it's like you need to know when you're planning your villain and when you're planning your villain's big plans and when you're planning world events and all of that, like, okay, what happens if this succeed? What happens if it fails? What happens if it fails monstrously? Like having those in your mind to know like, oh, here's what you're saying, that bigger problem brewing in the background. Now you have it and you can bring it up when you need it.
You know, another thing you can do, and they do this in Final Fantasy a lot, is you can set up one main villain that their characters know, and once they confront them, they find out there's someone above them, and so that's
Mm.
not the actual villain. That's
Mm-hmm.
just an obstacle. And then now and then that gives you a way to add another NPC or ally that was originally someone you were fighting against. That creates a really interesting relationship as you move forward for that bigger villain.
Absolutely. It's a really good one. And then you have like that establishedness of okay, however powerful this villain that we've been struggling with is a henchman, a lackey, a underling for someone even bigger. And that you
Hmm.
have now you have natural like, oh, well, if they were this bad and they're taking orders, how powerful is this person? How what resources do they have?
First time I ever experienced that was playing Chrono Trigger. You're like, I got him. Wait. There's another. There's another thing.
And Deeb's bringing up, now you've wiped out the entire royal line, and there are many people that are not happy with you. Yeah, even if you solved
Perfect.
one problem of like, no, it's cool. We destroyed the monarchy, and now you have a bunch of people that are like, I liked the monarchy. Or, yeah, it wasn't great, but it was stable. Like, now we have a new problem. So yeah, there's a lot of things that can work in your favor in that. Oh, good morning, Incarnadine. Cool. Any more on that, or shall we move on to the next question?
Oh yeah, one more.
Yeah.
I did. I used to do this with the game Dread all the time, where you like play with the Jenga
Yes.
towers.
Oh, I've
Um,
yacked about Dread on here before. Dread is
early,
cool.
early, early on when I first started like GMing and playing Dread, I would always have an NPC that would start the game with all the players. For some reason, I always named them Sammy. I don't know why, but in every game they were always Sammy, and Sammy was always sacrificed whenever they got to like when they got to face like the big bad monster, that Sammy was the one who suffered the horrific death, so the players could see what could happen to them.
Mm.
Just make an example of an NPC that your that your players love. That's a good way to do it.
Ooh, that, yeah. Hit them where it hurts in the NPCs that they love.
And they got to make them lovable
Mm-hmm.
and
Totally. Italian bring up another one saying, I think it's really fun to play a villain who's so much more powerful than the party that they just enjoy toying with them. And as they prove that they're a threat, it gets more and more of a fight rather than just abuse/manipulation. Yeah, that is
mm,
really good. That it's like, why, like, that idea of you're like, yeah, why you're killing you wouldn't even matter. Like, you are so minimal in my life, in the schemes I have, in the problems that I have. Like, you're nothing. I wouldn't even waste a hitman on you.
that really brings out the existential dread in your characters, like knowing that, realizing that there's nothing. You're just part of the game. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good, Italian. I like that. Drinethal, let us know if that answers your question, and if it doesn't, then tell us, and we'll try again. Um, Marith brought up in the Discord, which I really really like. He brought up two questions. One saying, I would be curious how um, to do particular scenes and encounters, etc. How to not just railroad players, but still have some flexibility to keep people relatively on track, assuming the players don't go off the wall. Never assume the players won't go off the wall. It is always possible. You got to plan for it, but they also don't always do it. So you got to plan for that too. Um, Kind of what we were saying earlier with being able to be aware of what you have to influence what you need to make up on the spot. And that modularness of like, oh, okay, this is now, I was going to use this set piece that I had in mind as, further down the line, but they're at a volcano. This is perfect for the volcano event I have planned. So whoop, this is now earlier in the plan. Um, and now you have something that's connected to your villain, that is connected to their plan, that the players have chosen to go to the volcano because they needed lava as a spell component or whatever they were doing, and now you've incorporated it in there. I think that's a really good way to stop from feeling railroady, is being able to find out what they want to do and then taking pieces of what you've got and making it part of that scenario.
One thing I like to do, especially if I'm running one shots, because you have to sort of make sure if I'm running a one shot with a particular ending, or a particular villain, or I like to add like loose narrative game timers in. Like for
Yes.
example, um, like there's a like non-threatening sounds at the beginning that get louder and louder over time. That is going to like inadvertently push them in the direction you need them to go, or maybe uh, something happens where you're running out of oxygen, and that's now reducing the number of rooms they can go into until they get to the one that you want them to get to, and ways to just sort of like keep things moving. Like you can like stay here for a little bit, like, oh, here's a reminder of like the timer, without saying it's a timer, like, oh, you
Mm-hmm.
hear this thing or this thing happens, and then sort of like gently pushes them along while them feeling like they're just still like navigating the world, you know.
Absolutely. Timers are so helpful. Both in pushing stuff forward and also just keeping things interesting. Like, especially in combat scenarios where it's like, if you have 5 turns in a row of I take a swing, did I hit? Here's the damage. Uh, what what you're saying? You hear a noise, it's getting louder, or uh, you're noticing. Oh yeah, you're running out of oxygen, just like you were saying. Oh okay, here's uh, doing it in a dungeon. Ooh, you're starting to sense like all this effort. You're banging into the walls. Feels like the cave's about to collapse. Like, are you gonna keep fighting? Are you gonna try and back off? Like, you now have a thing of, Oh yeah, water rising in Carnadine. Yeah, exactly. Like the idea that there's something that you have to do to move on. Like you
Mhm.
cannot stay stationary. That is no longer an option. Bad things will clearly happen. Yeah, timers are an amazing thing. And in social situations too, where it's like, 100% guilty of this as a player, talking to NPCs and just not shutting up, just continuing to talk and be like, oh, what about this? I'm going to talk about this. Oh, we're making plans. Oh, okay. Well, hey, what about this plan? Oh, okay. Well, what about this plan? What if we try this plan? And it's like, the sun's going down. Like, it can be as simple as that. Like, it is going to be night soon. You see the
It's last
person.
call at the
Oh,
tavern.
right. The person you are talking to is checking their watch and desperately like trying to get someone to come over and rescue them from this scenario. You've got maybe one question left. Like that sort of stuff where you are, able to move forward, and that also helps with like, oh, okay, I know that this is wrapping up. What is the most important thing I can do? Is it, like a specific attack? Is it a piece of information I need to get? Is it, oh, I still haven't planted the bug on them? Like, what is the thing that you have to do before it's over?
Mm.
So, timers, thank you. I need to use them more often too. Um, And Mirith with a second question, which I also really like, and that I honestly had not thought of before, and was like, why have I never thought of this question? It's really good. Saying, ignoring running out of steam, when do you stop planning? I'm not sure how to phrase the question, but also around attempting pre-made adventures and how to handle running them, especially if they don't give enough info. Yeah, and I think that's two separate things that we can touch on both. The idea of when to stop planning, I think, is such a great question. Um, I think one of the big parts of that is, when you start running out of steam is a good one. But we can all over plan and be like, oh my gosh, but then in this, and then in 10,000 years, this will have an effect. And it'll be like, it's like, we're not getting there. This is one campaign. We're going too far. You may have steam, but it's sending the train off in the wrong tracks. Um, I think a decent metric is like, if you were explaining this to someone, at what point would they get bored? Like, your planning has to have some level of conciseness of being able to be like, this is the plan. Um, and you can expand on it more, but just if you are just going off so hard in one direction that you feel like people's eyes would start glazing over, that's a really good sign to either stop or pivot to a different part of the plan. Like something specific of like, oh, okay, well, what are some scenarios I can put the players in? Or, what are some NPCs I can build for them to interact with? What does stop planning mean? Italian. What are your thoughts on the like how to corral your thoughts in the direction you want and when to stop continuing on?
That is, I'm still figuring that out for the but like what
Fair.
I end up doing most of the time, because I run a lot of one shots at like conventions and things, and the way I plan it, and it's been working so far for the most part. I plan one big encounter or idea um, that's hidden in a sandbox of options.
Mm,
So even though it's just one big idea, to get there, they're going to find all these other things that they're kind of shuffle through, um, giving you a time during the session if it's like a 2, 3 to 4 hour session, giving you time to just uh, uh, allow your players to just do whatever they want, right? Because you don't want just them to do like the one main mission and then that's it, right? You want to
Mm-hmm.
give them little things to sort of go on tangents on, and uh, in order to keep it within one session, every time I put more than one major event in my one shot, it ends up going over. So I've just reduced it to like, here's one big encounter, one main event. Here's like, think of it like a short film,
Mm-hmm.
right? When you make a short film, it's one idea, it's particularly one scene. There's a lot of people who try to make short films like 20 minutes long. That's like basically a mini feature. But really, a short film, you're just focusing on one specific idea and exploring that, right? It's the same
Mm-hmm.
thing with one shots. When I plan a session, I'm focusing on one idea, a short film that we're going to explore that has a bunch of other options to give me ideas of where to go next session. Um, and that's kind of the basis I've been going around. It's been working most of the time.
Yeah, that's doing one shots. I totally agree. You need like one key thing, and like
But yeah,
and like an environment like that. The more things you add to it, oh man, yeah, it gets out so quickly. You add so much time.
but like in terms of like monitoring how much time you're spending on planning, then if I don't have a lot of time and I'm just getting ready for the next session, I just focus on the one idea, and then I'll look at my notes and look at like what happened in the last sessions, and I can sprinkle in little things here and there to add to that. That aren't full missions, but maybe just may inspire another mission later on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but never losing focus of like the one thing I want the players to try to do. Um, and even if you don't make it to that one big idea at the end of that session, at least you have a lot of other ideas in that sandbox that you've prepared to just fill up your time with something fun.
Totally agree. Trying to think if there's anything else on when to stop that I can add. But I don't think I have at the moment. But that's such a good question. And yeah, oh, that would be one other one. Experience. That helps too. Exactly what you're talking about, where you were saying you've run multiple one shots, and every time you add more than one big thing, it ends up going over. Experience will help you understand, like, oh, I know, especially if it's the same players, where it's like, oh, I know if I give them this, they're gonna go off on it, and that's the only thing we're gonna deal with. If I introduce a petting zoo, our entire session will just be touching animals. That's it. Uh, and then for specific things like that, but also, yeah, what you were saying of like, okay, I understand if I plan two environments, that's probably going to take up, at least 2 hours of time. And I don't want to do more than that. So, like, I know I've got to keep it to this. That's where my planning needs to stop. It needs to be in these two environments.
And when I answered that question, I was talking about my own specific experience. Everyone GMs differently,
Very true.
right? And I'm very kind of go with the flow. So even though I only have one major event, it still takes time because we take the time to just experience the environment or like have conversations. We're not just trying to get from like plot point to plot point to plot point.
Mm-hmm.
So for my particular experience, if you're that type of gamer or GM, when you just kind of allow your group to take time in a space, then yeah, one big event is all you need. But if you got you know murder hobos as players that just wants to kill, loot, then yeah, you're gonna want to have a couple of those down the line.
Absolutely. Uh, Italian bringing up LMAO. The first one shot I ran, I planned the whole fucking thing, barely used any of it. The session lasted 7 hours. Probably didn't have to establish the entire royal family, their goals and fears, and how the city worked. Yeah, a definite thing to ask is like, all right, here's how the city works. Here's the royal family line. Here's, all these things. Wow. Is that what the players are going to be interacting with? Is the goal of the session to know the family line? Is the goal of the session to know how the city works? If not, that's good information to have, but not something that you need to focus all your time on.
Oh, that's another huge thing I learned the hard way is I had to learn to talk less in my sessions. And everything you say, I've seen really experienced GMs do this where they can they don't just explain everything to you. They explain enough information for you to want to ask questions. And that's
Mm.
where the time gets used up in your session, is that allowing your players to have curiosity. So there was a session where uh it was like this horror scenario at a summer camp with all these different people having like relationships with each other they had to navigate, and I spent so much time with them, like showing them the different characters and the relationships that we it took like half the session just to even get established. And I was just spending way too much time to show them, look at this world that I built, and I just like explained everything instead of just letting them explore it and ask questions. And then like when I describe something, I try to like actively withhold uh, sharing too much and just giving enough information to like spark a light. And you're like, wait, what was that? I want to look at that, or
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk to this person. So
Yeah, totally agree. Uh, it's hard not to do. I feel like that's a lesson we've all learned the hard way. And yeah, knowing, oh, okay, I can leave an open book on a table and like someone might look at it and then it's like, oh, okay, cool. You've looked at it. Here's a little bit of information that you discovered. Um, and adding that on uh all of that you've built, making that them that figured it out, that they learned about it because they looked at the book, they investigated this, they asked the right question. Now it's not a lore dump, even though it's literally the same information that you would have told them anyway if they just would have listened, but they have emotional investment in they got this information.
it's just like in movies, the saying of show don't tell.
Mm-hmm.
You know, don't explain everything, just show them and let them pick what they want explained.
Yeah. And Deeb's bringing up a good point and says, what I've learned about one shots is that you got to expect whatever you have planned to take roughly 3 to 4 times longer than you think it will. Yes. Especially
Absolutely.
earlier. As, like, again, experience. The more you do it, the more you could be like, oh, okay, I've run scenarios like this. I think I know it'll actually only take twice as long as I think it will. And also, the more you run, to be more comfortable with going, oh, okay, this, I can see how this is going to take longer. Here's how I can trim it. Here's how I can knock half the HP off of that. I'm going to combine the two enemies I had planned into one and just use their move sets to keep it interesting, but then it's only one fight, so it won't take as long. Um, and the same way when players do things, usually this is far more rare, but when players do things way faster than expected, and you can be like, oh, okay, here's how I can split this into two parts, and how I can keep both of them and engaging. Um, Marith, I don't even know if you are still here, but hey, let us know if that answered the question, and if not, we'll try again. Um, Rat Beach replying to Deep saying, it'll only be a couple hours, cut to 3 a.m. Yes. Ah, Mirthid, you are here. Excellent. Thank you. Those were excellent questions. Truly, all of them have been excellent, um, including another one from Talion, saying, okay, here's another one. Thoughts on a surprise lack of a villain? Like with Jesse's time loop, having the answer to are we in a time loop being, oh, some goblin was trying to adjust a magic clock for daylight savings and something went wrong. I kind of what you were saying earlier. Yeah, you don't need a villain necessarily. Sometimes it is fun to have an obstacle that is out of their control. Um, there's actually a mothership one shot that I played that was really fun where you are in this scenario, you are stuck in a time loop and you have 10 minutes and the DM set up a timer, 10 minutes, put it on the table. And every 10 minutes we went back to the start of the adventure and we got stress every time it happened. So we knew if we didn't solve it in time, we would die. And that there was like the person doing the time loop, or the reason the time loop was happening, similar to a goblin just trying to reset the clock, like it was scientists doing an experiment. And when it went off, it set stuff back 10 minutes. So they were unaware that they were the cause of the time loop. Because every time it would start the experiment, it would go, oh no, something's going wrong. Whoop, and get thrown back. But every time they would go back and be like, oh, today we're doing our experiment. Let's go for it.
Which one shot was that? That sounds amazing. I'd love
Oh,
to
it
try
was
that.
so sorry. But you could run it, I guess, is real.
I would love to run it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's cool. Yeah, if you want to play it, I'm sorry I ruined it. I will ask my friend, and I will message that to you because I do not remember the name of it. It's
That
really
sounds
good.
so
It's
fun.
it is it was
Do like an
such a great
RPG
one.
Groundhog Day kind of
Yes,
scenario.
very
So
much so.
cool.
And it was great because it was an undersea lab. So like there was no like you can get out of here in time to escape it. Like if you
Yeah.
went, if you took those 10 minutes to try and surface to like escape it, like your lungs would explode. Like you cannot get out of this undersea scenario.
That's great.
Yeah. Drop it in RPG help desk. Yeah, I'll drop it in there too, Talion. Thank you. Yeah, because it was a really fun scenario. But yeah, there was no villain in that. Like no one was being malicious. But we were all stuck in this scenario and we had to
Yeah.
figure out how to solve it. And that makes it fun when there is no villain, because now there's not a, well, we just fight this guy and we win. Like we wanted to rescue everybody there. And it was like, well, how do we save people? Like can we save everybody? Like if it becomes a scenario of like, which is the ending we were pretty much stuck into, was like, we don't know how to do this in enough time with getting everybody out. If we pull it off, how many people are we willing to let die in order for us to end
Ooh.
it? Because we
Yeah.
might not pull it off the next time, but we know we can't do this forever. And that became like a really good sense of drama. So yeah, no villain is a really good scenario. It is kind of hard to do because you have to kind of build extra things to have that emotional resonance. But yeah, it can absolutely work. I don't know if you have examples of things you've pulled off or games you've played with a lack of villain.
Lack of villain.
Or just your thoughts on it in general.
I do love the idea of when you were talking about the time loop game, and then you were also mentioning the goblin turning back the clock by accident. I imagined it was a time loop game where someone was literally like dropping their Coke on the machine at the end of every 10 minutes. And then like that was the reason, not even scientists like doing a thing. It was like a complete accident. And you have to find the person who's messing it up.
Oh, that would be really good. Or like there's a leak and like, so it's just like a slow leak, but it's just water is pooling and then a drop of water hits something on the machine where it's going to go between two cracks in the panels and it's going to fizzle something out.
Yeah, the objective is the game. The hidden objective of the game is to become plumbers and
Yeah.
find the leak and stop it before the end of 10 minutes, or you're there forever. That's
Yeah.
great.
Oh, and that's another good thing of a lack of a villain means you can do something that does not have like a human motivation behind it. So, exactly the thing of someone spilling a Coke or, there's a leak and that's what's causing it. It's like, you don't have to have like well, why are they spilling the Coke? Oh, what devilish schemes they have. It's an accident. Like,
Yeah.
why is this leak? Who sabotaged the thing? It's an older thing and nobody noticed. Like there's a sensor that's out. Like it doesn't have to be.
Using the chaos of life as the engine to create drama. Yeah, I think that's great.
Ooh, what a
Future.
succinct way to sum that up. Using the chaos of life to create drama. That's beautiful. I really like that. Incarnadine do games with all powerful beings like with all powerful beings count as no villains like Cthulhu. I think it depends on how you play them. Cuz like Cthulhu could be an antagonist in the sense of like if they see a person, they're just going to be like, "Wow, that's a mind to devour." Home, and then that's kind of antagonistic of they want that. But you could also play it as like you know it is a person walking through their garden and you're playing the ants that are seeing their home destroyed. Like that person is not even conscious of the destruction they are bringing. So I think that really depends on how you want to play it. I don't know if you have a thought on that.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Oh dang. Do you just want to say what I said and then you can be like, I just said it. So great.
And then you can clip that and say it was my idea.
Yeah. um
But yeah,
okay.
I mean, you've seen that example in stories all the time, like very epic existential sci-fi kind of stories where there's all this chaos happening, and it like keeps zooming out, and then just to show how insignificant we are in
Mm.
existence. So it's just like a blip in the universe, or someone's playing marbles, and it's like making our whole thing shake. And I don't know, like it's yeah. I mean, it's a really cool concept, and I feel like I don't see enough games exploring that.
I I think that's really hard to do. Um
Yeah.
for several reasons. One, it does lack a lot of the kind of emotional core that we've been talking about of like, well, what makes a good plan is like, oh, the connections, the emotions, how it ties together. When if you say, look at how insignificant everything is, it's like, oh well, that does kind of
I guess
bum
it,
out some of those.
it really depends on your perspective of how you're looking at it, because I can see a game where the main motivator for all of the drama is just chaos, but within the chaos, the point of the emotional point of the game is finding meaning within the chaos, right?
Mm.
It's like God, who said that? Nietzsche, but he said something along the lines of like, uh, to live is to suffer, to find meaning in the suffering is to survive, kind of thing.
Mm.
It's like it's all chaos, but like you can make the point of the game to find relationships, like whatever your character motivations are, trying to fulfill those motivations in a world that is absolutely unforgiving to you, like with your group, with your friends. I think that's a good basis for that kind of game. I don't know.
I like that. Yeah.
And I wouldn't personally look at it as like such a, like an absolute bummer. I would find it as like more of a reason for your characters to fight to find meaning. You know, if that's the case.
I like that. That's really cool. I think that's a good way to look at it. Yeah. I think that might be the quote. Italian pudding: "To live is to suffer. To survive is to find some meaning in the suffering."
Yes.
That's cool. I think that answers the question. If not, let us know. We'll try again. Um, that got through the questions that other people have posed. And if people have more questions, you're welcome to ask. But I had one because I wanted to hear your thoughts on it. Uh, how do you make a plan worthy of a villain? Like, how do you make you have a big bad and you want them to have this cool, complicated plan that gets people involved? Or, like, oh, it's just such a galaxy brain thing. How do you make something, especially if you're maybe, theoretically like me and you don't feel like you're that smart and that you're probably not going to actually think of a really great plan or that won't have holes in it? How do you make it cool and big and matter?
Like the villain's plan,
Yeah.
in terms of like how do you make a villain's plan that incorporates the players in a way that they can experience that plan in a really fun way? Is that what you mean? Or
We're,
like how do you just make a giant
I don't know.
elaborate plan?
I was thinking, how do you make a giant elaborate plan? But I kind of like your take on it better. So let's go
Because I
with
can
that
make it,
one.
I can very easily make a giant elaborate plan that the players will not experience even half of it. So I think that's the challenge, really, right? Is you have if you can put all this work into this cool elaborate plan, what's the point if no one's going to experience it or know about it, right? And then I don't mean experience it like know all the details and have everything explained. I mean like experience the plan in action, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to actively think about how that plan is going to incorporate your players. So you might have to change some things around in a game perspective, or like if you know who your players are, change things in the plan that can get them involved in a way that can experience it the way you want them to experience it. You know what I mean? Um, and I think if I'm going to do that, um, I'm going to go right back to what I said at the beginning: is uh, planning your villain's plan in a fractal sense. Like literally have a board or use note cards where you have this is the villain, that's the overall bracket. This is what their goal is, that's the overall bracket. And then you zoom in. How do you get that plan done? Well, they got to do this, this, and this. And then you zoom in. Who's involved in that section there? Then you zoom in. So, how does that affect the communities? And then when you zoom in far enough, you can see, like, okay, this is how it's going to affect your players, which are going to be like this microscopic part of this grand plan. But you need to start from the outside and zoom in to understand why the players are going to be significant to that plan, rather how they're going to be significant because they're going to be antagonistic, or if the villain plans to have them help them without them knowing it. You know what I mean? You got
Mm.
to have the overall scheme of it, and because, and like I said, everyone is different. You can use yours differently. I'm a very visual person, so I literally like to have it all out in front. So I'll have a giant board, or I'll have a bunch of note cards, so I can look and visually see the relation between this event or action and how it's related to this event or action on this side of the timeline. And um, I like to, if there's like absolutely no connection, I like to try to find little things I can like make notes here and there to like loosely connect them, so that as the plan is evolving over time, no matter where your players end up going, it's somehow going to find its way back to something that you put on that overall fractal board.
That's really good. I like that a lot. And Italian mentioning, I really love that fractal plan because that also functions as a path for the campaign going forward. They just investigate along the path of that branch of the fractal. That is super helpful.
And and much like, and I highly recommend, especially if you're writing stories and campaigns, play Microscope. Oh, it's so good. It's such a good like writing tool. I know other game designers who've used Microscope as a lore writing tool for their game design. If you ever play Giga Robo, it's like this miniatures battle board game, but it has a ton of lore. And the designer used Microscope multiple sessions to develop characters and their backstories so that they feel fleshed out. But just running the rule set of Microscope allows you to like get that all-encompassing idea of a specific story in a very sensible way.
That's really cool. All right, well, gotta check out Microscope. Add it to next to Triangle's agency on things I
I
really
am
need
not
to
a
play.
paid representative of Microscope or any of the people working for Microscope. I just really appreciate their design.
There's not enough money in the tabletop RPG space to be a paid representative of most things. We yak about the things we talk about because we love them. So I will absolutely look
And
that up. Hmm.
yeah, and if you design your story that way too, um, with like the brackets, what's nice about it, it's so flexible that you can always like update and change things at any level of the
Yes.
story. So let's say you have the only thing you're not changing is the one giant main theme bracket, like the villain,
Hmm.
the the plan or whatever. But everything underneath it, all like the eras and events and things like that, you can always put something in between. There's always room to put something in between at any scope. So if you're running a campaign, you don't have to feel like you're just stuck to this one plan. there's always room for adjustment because you can always just move things over and add this new era with all these little things that happen.
Mm-hmm.
And you can potentially do that forever.
Yeah. And to that, also changing things to, incorporate something the players have done, where it's like, oh, they
Yeah.
have friended this person. Oh, all right, their surname is Pillow Fight. And, I really want them connected to this other person so that there's a personal connection. So it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to change this person's name so that when they talk with them, it's like, wait a second, this. And then they might be, someone they don't like, but now they know they're connected to someone they do like, or it's someone that you can immediately maybe have them trust whether they should or shouldn't. Uh, and yeah, being able to, I totally agree with you. Being able to change those details within it is really important and really fun
Mm-hmm.
because it's in that cooperative storytelling that you have the opportunity to, like, essentially foreshadow things that you didn't expect to do or make connections to things you didn't expect to have connections, but they can, and
Yeah.
that'll make them more fun and meaningful.
Yeah, it just makes it so much fun, more fun for you as the creator because you're no longer just following a blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's a living document that you're
Yes,
all working together. So,
it is. Games are very much a living document.
yeah.
Cool. That is all of the questions we have. So we got through the
Ooh,
ones in Discord and the ones live. So I guess that means we can wrap it up because it's been about an hour and a half. So,
look
if
at that.
anybody's got any questions, throw them in real quick. But if not, hey, this was a hoot. I really appreciate you coming on. This was really fun.
Thanks for having me. This was super fun.
Oh, I'm so
Super
glad.
fun.
I'm so glad. Uh, oh yeah, thank you, Talion. Thank you for all of your questions too. You were today's most question asked person, so thank you.
There's got to be a keyword for that, a special name for that.
Yeah, maybe I should come up with
Like we were
one.
talking about blue sky posts. There's got to be a word for that. Someone's got
Yeah,
to make it. What was it? We made blorb.
Blorb. Yeah, blue sky posts are now called blorbs. We'll see if it catches on. Ooh, head inquisitor. That's pretty good. Skeets aren't a thing. Skeet already has a definition, so can't. Two
Yeah,
actually. There's also, the one for. Is that throwing clay pigeons? I think
I
that's
never heard
skeet
of that
shooting.
one.
Oh, skeet shooting is when you. I think
Oh
it's the
yes,
clay pigeons. Yes. See,
my mind just blanked that out.
two.
Terrible. I only thought of the one thing.
That's the more culturally relevant one, so that's fair.
There's not a lot of people in our sphere that are going skeet shooting. That's true.
Yeah. Anything you want to tell everybody before we head out?
Uh, no, just be safe, be kind, play games. Yeah.
I support all of these things. That's a great thing to do. Um, thank you everybody for coming. For everybody who's a part of the Patreon, I just did a special video because it was my month for our experimental just do whatever we want. Each one of us gets to do something every month on Patreon, and I got to do mine. And people have said they've enjoyed it and thought it was very funny. So thanks. If you haven't
Go
seen it
watch
yet,
it.
yeah. See, if Roderick says watch it, how are you not going to do it?
You don't want to offend the guest, do you?
Yeah. Yeah. If Roderick doesn't come back, it's because you offended him. How does that make you feel? But yeah, thank you for everybody who supports us on Patreon because I got to make that and it was really fun. So check that out. And then all the other stuff we do. Check out Adventures Nigh and reviews and discovery queues and everything. It's great. Sports need more necromancy. That is directly related to my video. Yes, sports do need more necromancy. That would make them more exciting. Thank you, Deebs. Be safe, be kind, play games is a fantastic sign off. Well done. Yeah, I might steal that. I may have to yoink that wholesale and then
Have at it.
cool. Maybe end it in a quote and be like, Roderick.
No, you don't have to put me on there. I think it's a pretty universal thing. I don't need to own it.
Cool. All right. Thank you all very much. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye.